Hey, for everyone who's new to Vision Forward Realty, I just want to give you a big warm welcome. But this is a quick introduction for anyone who's watching online or anyone who is just really interested in learning about, what are other perspectives on how to put together a residential purchase agreement in California specifically as a real estate agent. So I'm going to share my screen here and show you a couple steps because I find that new people, if you're new with Vision Forward Realty, we've got 3 different scenarios that we really want you to put together a practice offer on, because otherwise, if your first time putting together an offer is the night that an offer's due, whoever's mentoring you, whoever your broker is that wants to, help you, you pretty much put them in a position not to help you. I've got I've got 2 little kids now that want my attention at night when I'm done working full time in the day. I have no problem getting on my email and taking screenshots of your offer, and marking it with red ink to say, okay, you need to fix this, this, and this. Spending 2 hours with you, getting you familiarized with California Association of Realtors, how to log in, I'm going to be very frustrated. So our requirement as a brokerage, now obviously if you're with another brokerage, just follow their requirement. I don't even know if half of them do. I remember at Coldwell Banker, I did have some practice offers, so I really encourage you to do this. Okay, so what I do is you go into car.org, you sign in. You probably have a sign in, even though you don't really remember. So if you haven't signed up yet, make sure you memorize this. But you're going to go to Transaction Center, Transaction Zip Forms Edition, Access Zip Forms. It's going to pop up with this menu here. You're going to wait for this to turn orange, or yellow, whatever that is. Click Continue. Now, when you get into this screen, if you're at a different brokerage, your brokerage sometimes has weird templates set up because various reasons. But for us, you're just going to click New. You're going to click New Purchase. I like to put my client's name, Tom Smith. You can put the address if you want and link it with the MLS. It does put in some information. Here's my thing is if this is a buyer, a lot of times there's a good chance we're going to be writing an offer on another property at some point. Like for some reason, this might not work out. And I'd rather have all their information, all their details saved in here and just redo everything in another offer just by changing the address, the APN, the county. So I don't put the address personally. I do go right over here. I put residential. Obviously, you can put whatever it is that fits your perspective. You can put stuff in here. I have noticed that when you put more stuff in throughout here, it does kind of mess with a lot of things. So I just stick with putting the address, county, and APN. So for our example, if I do 123 Main Street, I do California. Let's go 9, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to do Roseville, Placer. Obviously, you're going to capitalize these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, to get the APN, you're going to go on the MLS. It is going to be this, because they change the format constantly, so it's hard for me to give you a heads up on it. But it'll be highlighted blue. When you click it, it does lead to property tax information, so that can be useful sometimes. But you'll just see APN or assessor's parcel number. You're going to see a really long number, and that's what you're going to put there. Those are the things. The rest of this you do not need. Okay, so when I go to parties, I want to add the parties. The one thing I'll say is you always want to add them twice. You add it here and you add it here because it's easier when you set up the signing. Now, when I go to documents, all I do is click all forms on the upper right. I'm doing this pretty quickly, but you're going to click buyer California residential purchase agreement. Obviously, that is what you'll have filled out as well. You're going to open it. Sometimes it asks a question about starting a workplace. I don't fully understand that. It's a new feature that they added that I don't particularly enjoy, but it is what it is. So I come here. If I type in Tom Smith, okay, I select buyer because I'm representing the buyer. A lot of people miss checking this box, so just be clear of that. I'll point out a few things. I have our brokerage name, make sure it's exact. Like I can advertise Vision Forward Realty, but in contracts, it's important to put the Inc. I know our brokerage license number. I almost forgot it for a second there. And then my license number is on the bottom. Wait, 0209. I got a lot of nines. Sorry, I'm a little recovering from, I think, COVID. Date prepared is the date you prepare it. It's not the date that they sign it, because it has to, let's say I get a husband and wife. Husband signs tonight. Wife signs tomorrow morning. What is the date for the contract? And so you always refer to it as the date you prepared it. So that's important to put. You see how this information was filled out, right? City, county, zip code, address, APN. A lot of people miss the APN for some reason. Now, what I like to do is I do like to look up the listing agent's information. And so let's say it's Keller Williams. I will put their license number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. Jane Doe. I don't even know if that's how you normally would spell Doe. And then this is another one people miss. You have to check this box. You check it, it automatically checks there. I check buyer, it automatically checks there, right? 4, 5. Okay. So I have their license number. It's all in the MLS. I just copy, paste. Okay. Super easy. Now, look at the scenarios if you're new, but this is where you're going to put the offer. So I'm going to put the offer here. Let's say it's $500,000. I'm going to put close of escrow. What I like to do, now this is the strategy, is you want to call the listing agent. You want to ask, hey, I just have some questions. I want to put together an offer. I'm going to make it more enticing for your seller. How quick of a close of escrow do they want? Sometimes people will just flat out say, my sellers don't want a quick one. They want a 30-day close of escrow. They want a 45 because they're still living there. They need to move out. Sometimes I call the lender and the lender's like, hey, listen, this isn't going to be super straightforward because there's fire insurance involved. We're at their max debt to income ratios, whatever it might be. I call those two, the lender and the listing agent, to figure out what this date is. And then I call my client to make sure that that's okay with them. Let's say the house is vacant. I know that I want to close as fast as I can. I'm going to push every lender. There's no bleeping reason why we can't close in 21 days. So that is important. Unless if I haven't referred my client to them until the day I'm putting this offer together, then shame on you. So I'm assuming my loan officer has got them pre-approved, whatever. So let's say it's vacant. I'm going to put 21 days. Expiration, totally up to you. Let's say the house goes on the market on a Wednesday. I'm submitting the offer on Thursday. I'm going to put that it expires Friday evening because I don't want them to use my offer throughout the weekend. But I got to make sure that it's an offer worth accepting before the weekend. And I have to tell my client that, right? This is a conversation with you and your client. Hey, we saw this house. It just came on the market. If you want to put in an offer right now before the weekend, then we need to come in aggressive. Otherwise, we need to wait till after the weekend. But there might be potentially more offers. It might be higher than what we're initially offering. You also might miss out on it. So it's up to you, though. Those are the pros and cons. If you really, really want the house, let's submit an offer now over the list price, quick close of escrow. Just let's make it so enticing that they're going to accept it before the weekend. If you don't love the house, but you do want it, let's wait till Sunday, see where the offers are at, and go from there. The problem is some listing agents get too anxious and they accept an offer before the weekend. There are reasons why, and so that's up to you. Otherwise, I leave it as 3 calendar days. I don't always shorten this because sometimes people will say, well, why did you put a 1-day expiration? Are you saying your client is going to get cold feet after 1 day and they're going to back out? They're not going to be interested. So that can work against you. And so you have to work case by case and listen to the listing agent when you talk to them and ask them questions. Initial deposit cannot be more than 3% if you're selecting liquidated damages and arbitration, which is a clause down at the bottom, which you always really should. I tend to like to put around 2%, which would be $10,000. It does go towards closing costs. It is not a security deposit. And I will emphasize that multiple times with my client. This is not a security deposit. You have multiple contingencies in place that will get that money back. I'll always protect that money. This is if at the last minute of the last hour I decide to cancel, the seller can technically go after that if they can prove damages. So let's be clear. I like to put buyer's choice on how they deliver it. I know there's an apostrophe, but I'm trying to do this with one hand and quickly. The reason why is sometimes, every once in a blue moon, I get an escrow officer who's got a stick up their butt and they're really uptight. And they're like, no, it says that after acceptance by wire transfer. Okay, wire transfer costs like $40, $45, and every penny counts for some people. So if my buyer wants to bring in a personal check, they should be allowed to bring in a personal check. It doesn't make a huge difference. So I like to put buyer's choice just in case I get that uptight escrow officer. For the most part, I don't. They're super nice. They're great. And so I don't really worry about it too much. Okay, increased deposits have to do, I would only bring it up if the listing agent brings it up, but that's a whole nother conversation. Okay, loan amount, let's say they're putting 20% down. So I'm going to put 400,000. Now it automatically says conventional. If it was FHA VA, the only thing you have to put in that form that's going to populate, right? If I click this, it's going to say FHA addendum was added. We're going to uncheck that, doesn't remove it. But what I would do is all I do is on that form, put that the house has to appraise for the price we're offering. That's the only real details you're putting in that form. There's other things, of course, you can put, but don't worry about it. I can put that the rate doesn't exceed a certain amount. So let's say my lender forgets to lock them in and we need to cancel due to the loan contingency. And they're asking what part of the loan, like why is the buyer not able to get the loan? I'm going to say, well, look, in the offer, I put the interest rates not to exceed 8%. My loan officer didn't lock them in, or they didn't get 8%. They got 8.5%. So we're canceling due to that. It's in the offer. I wouldn't really worry about points in my opinion, but people have reasons why they would put points in there as well. So I know I'm going over this fast because this is a video, so you can rewatch it whenever you want. I do want to put if it is secondary or an investment property, only because the lender will ask, or they'll want to know and they'll want to see that if it is a second home or an investment property. But for the sake of this, let's just say it's all primary residence. Okay, seller credits. This is where I'd put if the seller is going to give a credit, it automatically says towards closing costs. Lenders right now are asking that we put that it's if it goes towards a 2-1 buy down or a temporary rate buy down. My thing is you shouldn't have to put that. That's up to the buyer's prerogative. So additional financing terms, you can type out anything. Whatever you type out, remember that it supersedes anything that's pre-typed out. So be careful typing things out. If you do type something out, put it in layman terms, so the most basic terminology, and make it just very specific. This is crucial right now. If you want the seller to pay your commission, you have to check that box and put in what the commission is. So be very careful of that. A lot of people might be missing it because it's a new feature. Same thing, verification of cash. So this does say that I have to bring proof of down payment with my offer. And you do want to check that I'm submitting it with a pre-approval letter, pre-qualification, whatever it might be. You don't put fully underwritten pre-approval unless if it's fully underwritten, which means your lender sent it to underwriters to fully underwrite. If you check this, good luck canceling due to the loan contingency. So it always just check pre-approval unless if the lender said, yes, it's been fully underwritten, which then you shouldn't have a loan contingency. Final verification. I like to change this to 2 days prior to close of escrow. So the final walkthrough, just because if someone's moving out, I want to make sure the home is in the same condition, as in they didn't bump it, whatever. So I don't want to go 5 days. I want to go 2 days before we close. My personal opinion, totally up to you. Loan contingency, this in appraisal. You have to ask the lender. You do not put this in and then tell the lender afterwards, this is what I put. That will be a huge no-no. So make sure that you're putting that. Investigation, I would be careful putting anything less than 10 days. I like to shorten these if I can, even by 1 day. It goes a long way and it just looks a lot better. It's not a problem to get our inspections done in 10 days. I also don't want to give my buyer an out and have them confused when other houses come on the market, right? So I want them to make a decision quickly, and they should make a decision quickly. So I put 10 or 14 days. I think 14 days is great right now in our market. The informational access to the property, though, I always leave at 17 days because if my client wants to go and measure for furniture, I've had it where the seller said, no, we're past the 10-day mark because I put 10 days in here because I put 10 days here. So I leave this one blank. The rest I also put as 10 days or 14 days, just like this investigation of property. Because these have to do with other, review of insurance, review of seller disclosures. Going down, right? Time of possession. When do they take possession? I do not mess with this. It's upon notice of recordation. So when the house is on record, the house belongs to my client. So we're taking possession. Okay. Seller occupancy or vacant units. Okay. If the seller wants a rent back, as in they say they want to stay in the house after you close escrow, then you want to check this first box if it's less than 29 days. 29 days or fewer is a seller in possession. When you go past 30 days, the seller becomes a tenant and they have tenant rights. So you want to be very careful, and there are two different forms. Very careful about what you put there. If it's 7 days, if it's 14 days, I usually like to make it free. So I put at $0 to the seller because I want to get the offer accepted. Usually your client's first payment isn't due for a month, sometimes like a month and a half after you close escrow. So I just like to make it free. If it's longer, it depends on how many offers you have and up to your client. You would want to talk with them about that. Okay. I usually leave these. If they want to take 7 days after they accept our offer to deliver their seller disclosures, great, because I then have 5 days after delivery to review the, whichever is later, not shorter. So if they give me their seller disclosures on day 7, I have 5 days after that. So if I put a 7-day inspection period or 7 days here, doesn't matter. Y'all messed up by waiting so long to give me the seller disclosures. This happens. Your client can cancel due to nothing other than what they review in the seller disclosures. Don't have to specify what it is. Even if they put no on every box in the seller disclosures, my client can still cancel. So it's a good out. You want to make sure you call the listing agent. Whenever you're showing houses, I like to pay attention to what my clients may want, and I ask them about it and include it in here. Good luck negotiating it later. Okay. Excluded items. You don't really have to worry about this too much because now the contract does say that personal items need to be removed at the close of escrow. The other thing I pay attention to is things like if there's curtains, ask your client. If there's pool cleaning equipment, ask your client if they want it. Put it in there. Electric car chargers are a big one. If they're a plug in the wall, it doesn't mean that it's fixed. I get that the contract says if something's fixed to the wall, that it becomes part of the permanent property, right? If I take the house, I flip it upside down and shake it, whatever falls out is personal property. So if I screw curtain rods in, that should stay. I get that that is the rule, but just ask. Just ask. Like if they drill in video surveillance cameras, just ask. Because otherwise you're arguing about it. The seller already took it. It's just make your life easier on yourself. Don't have a gotcha moment. Then this industry is going to be really bleeping tough for you. So just ask for it. Natural hazards disclosure. Personally, I like to get with American Home Shield because theirs is a lot cheaper than other ones. If I'm trying to be competitive, usually I have the seller pay for it. But remember, everything's negotiable. There is no, the seller usually pays for this or the buyer usually, it doesn't matter. Everything's negotiable, and agents who say that are going to get sued. So just want to say that. Seller, environmental, I check this box, provided by, and I pick. I don't put seller's choice on here because there is a natural hazards disclosure company that created called Seller's Choice, which I think is stupid. If you're in a wildfire area, you pretty much have to put this and put who's going to pay for it and who's it provided by. Sure. This is if you were to put anything else, but I always put for me, carbon monoxide detectors, water heater bracing, and smoke alarm detectors because they should do that. I mean, it's like the law pretty much. Government required point of sale inspection reports have to do with places like Davis and Berkeley and one other place in California that they require low flow shower heads and stuff like that. Okay, escrow and title insurance provider, you need to put at least the escrow holder here. I like to look at the MLS to see what they typed out. If they put pre-opened with Fidelity, whatever, Otherwise, I'll call and ask, do you have it pre-opened with someone? I want my client to get their offer accepted. I don't really give a crap who we choose for title and escrow, because it doesn't really help my client in any way. So some people are like, oh, you can choose your own. No, I just want to get my client's offer accepted. So I will put seller may choose, or I'll type out what they put in the MLS. Just put what they put in the MLS. Even if you put seller may choose, sometimes people will send a counter offer and they'll say, well, I typed out Fidelity National Title, so the counter offer says Fidelity. Problem is if you don't accept that counter offer and another offer comes in that's better, they can cancel that counter offer and go with that other offer. So try to avoid getting a counter offer, unless if you really want it, because there's multiple offers. So I put there whatever, and then I like to put both 50-50 split. Talk with your client about it. Same thing with owner's title insurance. There's always county transfer tax. There's not always city transfer tax, but you could put seller or both. But I always type if applicable. Yes, I get it. If there is no city transfer tax and I put that the seller pays for it, who pays for the $0 city transfer tax? Fucking no one. Sorry, but fucking no one. But all the time you get these fucking listing agents who are like, there is no city transfer tax. I have to send you a counter offer. It's like, but if the dollar amount is zero, your client pays zero. So once again, I want to avoid a counter offer. So just put if applicable. I get it. Smile and nod. I want to get my client's offer accepted. If you're a listing agent that freaks out about that, get over yourself. You're not an attorney and you need to just relax. HOA, make sure that you put, if there's an HOA, you could always ask the listing agent, hey, are you aware of any private transfer fees or city transfer tax? That way they can tell you. Home warranty, I always like to include the HVAC, the HVAC. That's what I'll put here. It's important to put things here like HVAC, pool, if you're going to have the seller pay for it. So just be clear about that. You want to get with the rep at whatever company so that you know the exact amount if you're going to have the seller pay for it. If you put the buyer, it's not as important. They can pick whatever policy they want. I like to pick American Home Shield because we know our rep and I know how much I need to put there if the seller's paying for it. I don't want to put $625 when it's either $570 or $680, right? And I want to be very specific, because if that helps me get my client's offer accepted, then that helps me get my client's offer accepted. Okay, the rest of this, the thing that is if I select one of these, or if there's a tenant in the property, or it's a probate, or it's in a trust, if you forget to check one of these because it's in one of those things, don't worry about it. The main one though is the septic and well inspection. This one, because you're specifying who's going to pay for the septic to be pumped, who's going to pay for it to be accessed and available. Sometimes they excavate it, so they got to dig out the holes, not the whole system, just the holes to access it. And who's going to pay for the propane, because usually propane's pre-filled. Are they going to prorate it and measure it right? So that's the only one that I would probably put with my offer. The rest of this you can put later if you're like, oh, there's a trust. Don't worry about it. You can put that later. So now when you send it for them to sign, here's the real thing. This happens all the time. It does not prompt. So if you put in the signing that something's optional to be signed, all of the signing platforms, well, mostly DocuSign, skips over it. It'll hit next and it'll skip over it. So make sure you put this page here. There's one page where there's 3 signatures required. 1, 2, 3. Liquidated damages and arbitration in the bottom. Arbitration and liquidated damages, they will want, you'll want to put that it's required. Otherwise, it'll skip it over and your client probably would have wanted to sign this. So that's really it. Last thing I'd say is whenever you're sending it to me to review for your scenarios is click download. Don't click email, because right here, it sends it to me in a weird format. So always click download, upload it to info@visionforwardrealty.com. So hopefully that's helpful. I know it's pretty quick, but yeah, put together those 3 practice offers. I'm telling you, it will make your life so much easier when you've had a little bit of practice with it for when you get your real client. When you get your real client, call me. Call your mentor. We're here to help you.